Hello, I'm Eric Melendez, Accessibility Consultant with Martin Brothers Consulting Services, and in this video we're going to be talking about parallel curb ramps and detectable warnings, specifically in the 2019, 2022, and the 2025 California Building Code. Now, in the 2019 California Building Code, I believe it was the supplemental cycle, the supplemental update to Chapter 11B, changes were made in Division 7 for detectable warnings, which effectively increased the minimum required depth at a parallel curb ramp landing, the bottom landing specifically, the turning space for it. And Division 4 for accessible routes, the curb ramp section in the code has not been updated to reflect the minimum dimensional change that is required, the minimum dimension that's required by detectable warnings. They haven't integrated that into Division 4. So we're going to cover that in today's video. Let's build the code path. Now, hold on. I know, access specialists and code experts, no, you never build a code path starting anywhere other than Division 2. But for this video, we are, because we all know your facility has to have an accessible route through it. And a curb ramp is just one way of providing an accessible route. And I'm assuming you've placed them where they're supposed to go. So we're just going to be looking at, here's a curb ramp. What do we need? I'm not here to teach you where to put curb ramps down. So let's read 11B 406.1 General, which has curb ramps, blended transitions, and islands on accessible routes shall comply with 11B 406. Curb ramps may be perpendicular, parallel, or a combination of perpendicular and parallel. 406.1.2, parallel curb ramps, says go to 406.3. 406.3, parallel curb ramps, says parallel curb ramps have to comply with 406.3 and 406.5. 406.5 kind of just talks about common requirements for curb ramps. They got to be, you can't have changes in level on them. They have to be sloped. It can't be gaps at the bottom, the counter slopes, all that stuff, which is just very general and outside the scope of today's video. So we're going to skip over that. We're going to go right into 406.3. 406.3.1 slope tells us what we should all hopefully know, which is that running slope has got to be less than 8.33%. That's 1 to 12. 406.3.2 turning space, this is where the conflicts start, says a turning space 48 inches minimum by 48 inches minimum shall be provided at the bottom of the curb ramp with a slope of not to exceed 2.83%. That's 1 to 48. So if you were designing a new curb ramp or you were in the field evaluating one, you might see this. It says 48 by 48. You look at the curb ramp in front of you, either be it on your screen or in real life. You measure it, it's 48 by 48. You think you're good. All is well. Let's move on to the next item. Shields up. Red alert. We have a code conflict. Because Division 4 for curb ramps has not been updated to recognize that detectable warnings have their own requirements now. And they are, let's go scope it. We'll do it right this time. Scoping 11B 246 detectable warnings and detectable warning textures. 11B 247.1 detectable warnings, and then the sub of that, 247.1.1 general, says detectable warnings provided, or detectable warnings shall be provided in accordance with 11B 247.1 and have to comply with 11B 705.1. So let's keep going. Let's dig into those. 247.1 continued is telling us where detectable warnings need to go, and it's saying they have to be provided as required by 11B 247.1.2. A lot of references in this stuff. So let's go to 247.1.2.1. That's platform edges. Outside the scope of this video, it's good stuff, but we're not talking about it today. So next, 247.1.2.2, that's curb ramps. That is what we care about. It says curb ramps shall have detectable warnings complying with section 705.1.1 and 705.1.2.2. Now, 705.1.1 discusses the requirements for the actual detectable warning surface. That's the truncated dome part. While that's great, it's really outside the scope of this video. We're not talking about the domes, we're talking about where the domes have to go. So let's move on. 11B 705.1.2.2 curb ramps says detectable warnings that curb ramps have to comply with 705.1.2.2. So let's go there. 705.1.2.2.1 is for perpendicular curb ramps, and not in today's video. 705.1.2.2.2, if you count it, that's 3 twos. That's a lot of twos. Parallel curb ramps. Detectable warnings at parallel curb ramps shall be located so the edge nearest the curb is 6 inches minimum and 8 inches maximum from the demarcation line, the face of the curb cut, the face of the curb between the curb and the gutter, street, or highway. Detectable warnings shall extend the full width of the turning space at the demarcation between the street and the sidewalk, less 2 inches maximum on each side. So this is just saying that from the face of our curb to the end of that demarcation line and that cut in the concrete, we have to have 6 to 8 inches clear before the detectable warning surface starts. So let's keep going. Oh, and the other half is saying that the detectable warning has to be the full width of the turning space of our curb ramp, except you can have 2 inches without detectable warnings on either side. So typically you have curb ramps, parallel curb ramps with only one entrance and exit point. That's covered in 705.1.2.2.2.1, which says where the turning space has one entrance or exit point other than the sloped ramp segments, so that's the walkway part, detectable warnings shall be 36 inches deep as measured perpendicular to the curb, and the turning space shall provide minimum 36 inches wide portion without detectable warnings to allow pedestrian travel in the direction of the sidewalk without traveling over the detectable warnings. So this is saying, so in addition to our 6 to 8 inch curb, then we need the 36 inches deep detectable warnings in the direction of travel. And then on top of that, we need another 36-inch section that's clear, so it's got no detectable warnings in it, so that someone on either end of the walkway can avoid the detectable warning surface, because those bumps, those truncated domes, I don't know if you've noticed, but mobility devices don't really have good suspension, or they might not have suspension at all. So when you roll over those, the sharp bumps can really, really hurt, especially if you have back problems. So this section is trying to avoid that problem. There are a couple exceptions. One is a technical infeasibility, where if it's technically infeasible to provide minimum 72-inch wide turning space, you can reduce the depth of your detectable warnings down to 24 inches deep. Reminder, you can't simply declare technical infeasibility. Technical infeasibility is something that you have to get approved by your local authority having jurisdiction. So that's probably your local building department. And if you do get that technical infeasibility approved, get it in writing. The other one, exception 2, says existing parallel curb ramps with detectable warnings that were compliant at the time of installation don't have to provide the 36 wide portion of turning space without detectable warnings, which to me is fairly obvious because the building code doesn't dictate updates. It only kicks in when you do a renovation or an alteration, so I don't know why they put that in there. And here's a graphic to help explain 705.1.2.2. Graphic A, one entrance and exit point, coincides with the 705.1.2.2.1, 1.2.2.2.1, the one with the one entrance and exit point, that one. And you can see here we have the little mark for the 6 to 8 inch curb. Then we have our detectable warning surface, which is 36, has to be. And then we need the other 36 clear. And if you add all that together, so that's 6, 36, 36, you get a minimum depth measured from the face of the curb to the back of the curb of 78 inches. That's a lot more than 48 inches that was said was the minimum in Division 4. So this is why it's important to really be familiar with the whole code book, because you can miss this, and if you pour this curb ramp and a building official comes by, or if someone tries to sue you, the only way to fix it is to bust out the jackhammers, and it might not even be possible to fix it. Graphic B for 2 entrance and exit points. You might find these at airports and really big shopping centers, or maybe even in a crosswalk with a protected median. And it's the same idea. You got to have the 6-inch curb, your 36-inch detectable warning, your 36 inches clear, but then you have the next set of detectable warnings and a curb, so you add the other 36 and then the other 6. And so you get the whole minimum depth of 120 inches. And yeah, hopefully you understood my ramblings here and maybe now understand um, why some people maybe told you, hey, this curb ramp is not compliant. Uh, Maybe now you have the answers to that. And hopefully you can use this video to design compliant curb ramps and never run into this problem. But thank you for watching. If you have any questions or any projects you'd like us to help you with, please visit our website at www.mbcserv.com, or you can give us a call at 949-932-0366. Martin Brothers Consulting Services specializes in providing CASp-compliant CASp inspections, ADA inspections, and consulting for projects outside the state of California. We offer plan review for new construction and alteration projects anywhere in the country. We also offer DSA project inspector services for any project in California that requires either a Class 1 or Class 2 inspector. We have both of those. And we also do playground safety testing compliant with ASTM for impact attenuation and service stability. Thank you for watching.